Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining in today. I am thrilled to be here, and I'm a big fan of HAYVN and everything that that it stands for around co-working and around getting people together, and especially at a time like this when it is so crazy and life is so uncertain, and you can have that connection with other people. So, thank you very much for having me today. I'm just going to start out by introducing myself. I'm Amy Schmidt. I am a podcast host. I am an author and a motivational and TEDx speaker, which is really my sweet spot. What I love to do is encourage women, wherever they are in their life, wherever they are in their journey, to kind of look back at what they've accomplished and use those experiences to propel them forward. And I talk a lot about cannonballing with confidence. And a lot of people say, what is that exactly? So that's what we're going to dig into today. So first of all, I just welcome you wherever you are with your business, with your journey, with your life. It's a time right now with a lot of uncertainty. And I know we're all a bit anxious about things to come, but I hope that this talk today will kind of put you in a position of feeling like you're operating from a position of power and can kind of put yourself as a priority in your life right now. So let's get started. What does it mean to cannonball with confidence? And one way I always start out my talks, and I'm going to shorten it a bit because I only have about 25 minutes today to talk, is I just want you to transport yourself back to when you were about 10 years old. And you're a kid with that fearless exhilaration, and it's a hot summer day and you head to the swimming pool, whatever that would look like for you when you were 10. And when you got there, you have that excitement of being around your friends. And I don't know about you, but there were a couple of high dives. There was a high dive and a low dive at the pool that I used to go to. And I'd make my way over, kind of running over to get in line for that high dive and go up those steps of that ladder as fast as I could, and jump off and make that impressive splash, what I like to call a cannonball. So if you're listening today and you remember Cannonball, put a little high five or a yes, I remember, or I can relate, because I'm sure at one point in our lives, we did cannonballs. And when you would come to the surface after that cannonball, you would look around to make sure that everybody was watching. Like, okay, I just made the biggest splash possible. There was nothing really holding you back. So now I want you to transport yourself to where you are now, where you are in your journey, your story, and everybody's is different. And I want you to go back to a summer day this past summer and think about being at a pool and seeing those diving boards again, that high dive and that low dive. And you decide, you know what? I'm 50. I'm just going to go over there and I'm going to go off that high dive, just like I did when I was 10. And you make your way over and you're standing in line and you're getting a little anxious. Your heart's starting to race a little bit more. And it's your turn. The lifeguard's saying, okay. You're kind of looking around, second guessing yourself and thinking, can I do this? And you get to about the third rung of that ladder and you're stopped in fear. And you just can't cannonball with confidence like you used to. You're worried about what everybody's thinking. You're thinking, oh, you know what? I'm just going to do it next year because I'm going to be 10 pounds slimmer and I'll do it then. So you put it off. Or you're so worried about making that perfect splash. Can you relate to that? If anybody can relate to that, go ahead and put it in the chat, because I think as women especially, we want everything to be perfect. We put things off until everything's aligned or everything is just right. Or maybe you have that feeling of being judged, like, okay, if I go off this high dive and I make this splash, then I have to go over to the ladder and pull this body out. And I don't know about you, but that makes me a little nervous. Are people going to be watching? Why is it that we lose our confidence as we get older? I think it's a fair question. And I think there are some things that really contribute to that. For me, I think about these things. Our body changes. I definitely check that box. You put on a little bit of weight, you lose a little bit of weight, all of a sudden it goes back up. If you can relate, give me a high five on that one. Your relationships change. As you get older, your relationships change. You're needed in different ways. Maybe you've gone through a divorce or a separation. Maybe you've lost a spouse or someone in your family. Those things change and they make you lose your confidence. Maybe you're experiencing health issues. Maybe you're getting ready for retirement and it just doesn't look like it did when you were 30 and thinking, oh, I have this nest egg here and I'm ready to retire, and you can do it with confidence. So can we do at our life right now to get that fearless exhilaration back? What we felt like when we were 10, be more daring, be more adventurous. Confidence by definition is trusting in our abilities to take on each day with feeling like we're being successful. It's funny because I recently gave a TEDx talk, and to give TED Talks, you have research points and things like that to talk about. And when I was doing research, I found out that 7 out of 10 people have felt stuck or are stuck in their life right now. And that could be you. You could be sitting there thinking, what am I going to do with this extra time? Am I going to go back to work? Am I going to go back to school? Am I going to take up volunteering for an organization I've always wanted to but never had time? What does that look like for you? I want you to think about these 3 words because I think there's a lot of power in these 3 words. Do not resign. Wherever you are in your journey, when you second guess yourself or you're feeling like you're losing your confidence, don't throw in your resignation. It's not time to do that. But rather, it's time to explore, time to rediscover, time to reinvent. And I know that word reinvent is a buzzword, especially for women maybe over 40. Their life may be looking a little bit different and they're thinking, okay, I'm ready to reinvent myself. How do we do that? How do we do that? Because honestly, where you are in your journey right now, you've probably mastered the art of reinvention many times. Just think about that. So how we're going to gain more confidence as we go along in our life journey is in 3 ways. Now, just look at that little girl, remember her. She's still there inside you. She still is there. She's still wanting to cannonball off that high dive. There's 3 things we're going to talk about: the power of self-reflection, the power of self-reliance, and the power of self-affirmations. We're going to start with self-reflection. And I love this because to establish where we are going, we need to examine where we've been. How do we do that? I call it by creating your highlight reel. You might be thinking, Amy, I look at other people's highlight reels on their Instagram and on their LinkedIn and on this, and they're accomplishing all these things. I don't have a highlight reel. That intimidates me. Let's talk about how we can create that for ourselves and how that confidence we can find within ourselves can propel us forward. Recently, I chatted with a friend of mine who is 48 years old. She's been with a company for many, many years, and she experienced a downsizing, a word that might be common for a lot of us to hear. She said, I'm too young and I need to keep working, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. So she got her resume together and she started to look for jobs. She was looking on Indeed. She was looking all over the place. She was using her network. And something came across and it looked pretty interesting. And she said, I think this one looks good. I think I'm going to go for it. So she started to read through the job description and thought, okay, this sounds awesome. I think I can do this. And then she got to the job requirements. Managing a budget of millions of dollars, managing and leading a team of 8 people. And right then and there, she was stopped in her tracks. Back to that analogy of being at the ladder and being stuck in fear, this friend of mine counted herself out before she even applied. We do that. We do that as women. If you can relate to that, please put something in the chat box. I would love to hear. Thank you for being brave, for putting that out there. But it's so easy to get stopped and say, I don't check all those boxes. And I hate to use this analogy because, I think I'm talking to all women today, and men that are listening, I'm not offending you by any way, I hope. But a lot of times men will look at those requirements and say, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that and more. Whereas women look at everything through a microscope lens and say, I just don't think I can do that. So, you know what, I'm going to go back here. So when we talk about creating our highlight reel, I want you to think back to where you are right now. And I want you to go back 10, maybe 20 years, maybe 5 years, whatever it is for you, and examine those accomplishments that you've had. Think back to 1997. For me, in 1997, I became a mom for the first time. And then look at what you've accomplished as a mom, as a wife, as a sister, as a daughter. Maybe one of those things, maybe all of those things. And take the time to write them down. You know, we write down what we eat every day if we're worrying about our health and things like that. We take food journals. We talk about finance journals, and we write down what we spend. I actually want to encourage you to take the time to write down what you've accomplished in the past. I challenged my friend to do this. And you know what? She looked back and said, Amy, I now remember in 2000, I did manage that budget. Even though I'm not managed a budget with the job I currently was laid off from, but I did do that. And that's right, I did lead that team of people around that specific project management. Those experiences translate. Create your highlight reel. Take the time to do that. And share it with others. I love to hear from women. You know, I do a podcast every week called Fearlessly Facing 50. I've challenged my community, my listeners right now, to create their highlight reels. Some have been bold and brave and courageous and sent them off to me, and they are amazing. When you really take the time to focus and look at what you've accomplished, that will increase your confidence and make you ready to cannonball, to climb to the top of that ladder. So self-reflection. If you're ready to create your highlight reel, give a little thumbs up in the chat box. I would love for you to make yourself a priority and, you know, take the time over the next couple of weeks to create that for yourself. Now we're going to talk about self-reliance. And I love this one because self-reliance is really trusting in your instincts. Look where we are. All the decades of service that we've given, the stories that we've been part of, the lessons that we've learned, the mistakes that we've made. I check that box. And we should have enough confidence within ourselves right now in our journey to trust ourselves. I have this picture up here because and now I've been back in the US 5 years. We lived in Germany for almost 6 years as a family. And every year we would do this crazy thing called a ski break. If you're European, it's something that's just built into their calendar. It's a wonderful thing. And every year we would go skiing, and I have to be honest, I was the weakest link of the group. We usually traveled with other families, and everybody was doing the black diamonds and doing the moguls. And every day there was a little bit of hesitation, but I kept up the best I could. I'm more of a green blue, apple strudel skier. I really like après ski. And one day at breakfast, the group was talking, and I knew that a portion of the group really wanted to go to this part of the mountain. We were in Italy at the time and really wanted to ski it. And I heard just a little bit of an undercurrent of, I don't know if Amy can do this. And right there in that moment, I knew I needed to trust my instincts and say, you know what, I'm tired today. I'm not the best skier. You guys go and enjoy that, and I'll meet you later. And I had two options at that point in the day. And one was maybe to go to the spa or just read a book all day and relax. Or I could be a little bit brave and step outside my comfort zone. And I did just that. I walked over to the reception desk. I signed up for this crazy, I think it was a 10-kilometer snowshoe adventure through the Dolomites. I ended up being the only one with this wonderful guide named Giuseppe. And I write about that in my book because he is exactly how you would picture a Giuseppe, this wonderful Italian man that spoke very little English. And I was with him for about 4 hours on a trek. Was I nervous? Absolutely. When I got to that reception desk, I can still remember actually standing there. And there was a big bowl of biscotti sitting there next to me. And I grabbed one of those, of course. And then I thought, I could just walk away and go to the spa and just relax. But I didn't do it. I chose to be brave and trust my instincts. And that's what I want to encourage you to do, is not worry so much about keeping up with everybody else, but doing what's best for you, but stepping outside that comfort, outside of your comfort zone and keeping away, pushing away that safety net a little bit. I share the story often. And if you're a follower of me, I was sitting in my office about, probably the year or two before I was turning 50. At that point in my life, I had lost both of my parents really unexpectedly. I was living in Germany at the time and I didn't make it back for either of them. It was a tough time in my life. When I moved back to the US, I had some health issues, as a lot of women experience at certain times in their life. And my kids were grown. And I was sitting in this house and it was quiet. There was nobody running around saying, Mom, make me lunch, or grab the laundry, or Amy, can you do this? And it was a moment in time for me where I felt as though I was standing in a road with a map and looking at it and saying, where am I going to go? I had more to give. I had more to do. And maybe you can relate to that. But I wasn't quite sure how to do that. But I went ahead and self-reflected. I created my highlight reel. I went back and thought about all those committees that I had served on, PTA president, booster club president, boards I had served on. I was always a writer. I was a journalist graduating out of college and loved interviewing people and being engaged and networking. And I used all of those experiences that I had. And it translated into me trusting my instincts and starting a podcast. I had never listened to a podcast before. I had no idea how to do the technological part, the editing, none of it. But you know what? When you're sitting where you are right now in your office or in your house, look at what we have right at our fingertips. Right now, the power of Google. I mean, we can Google right now something and probably learn something new today. So I kind of transported myself back to being a novice. I learned how to podcast. I learned how to get past that fear of being stuck and wondering which way I was going. But I have to share this story because it's true. And you may have heard it before, but I love to share it because part of my whole journey is being vulnerable, sharing those stories. And, I'm just like everybody else. There's nothing special about me. I just sat back and used those experiences to propel myself forward. On the day I was ready to launch my podcast, I sat in my office. I had everything ready. I was like, okay, like everybody could relate to this. Like I said earlier, thought it was going to be perfect. I was ready to go. I took a deep breath and I said, all right. And I went for it. And when I was done, I kid you not, I stood up in my office. I was doing a little happy dance. Like, I can't believe I just did this. This is so awesome. I just recorded the next Emmy award-winning podcast. I just know it. I sat back down and I'm like, okay, so let's just go here and figure this out and let's find the file. And I couldn't find the file. I never hit record. I'm a podcaster. And that's the message I'm trying to share, is about being confident and, opening the narrative around midlife and encouraging women. And I can't even remember to push record. True story. Honestly, right then and there, did I second guess myself? Did I think, oh man, here I thought it was going to be perfect. And now I'm stuck. But you know what? Right there in that moment, I knew that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to recalibrate. And also, it's okay to feel stuck, because then we know to get unstuck. It takes courage. And it's really great to get unstuck, because then you know that there was something bigger and better out there for you. I share that story because now, hundreds of interviews later, I talk to women all the time and we share this fear thing. It's ever present. I interviewed Joan London about 6 months ago. I just had her back last week for a chat. And she said to me, I asked her this question. I said, when you look back, what are some things that really stopped you in your tracks? And she said, Amy, I was so scared that I didn't have the confidence to really do what I was doing on Good Morning America. She said, I was so worried that people would judge me and pull the rug from under me. Joan London, I mean, she's iconic. You know, back in the 80s, she was the first real woman to forge ahead, being a working mom. And here she was sharing with me that she was feeling nervous. So fear, it's ever present. It can take away our confidence, but we have to realize that we have to step out of that fear. We have to get on the other side of it. We have to create those accomplishments, those highlight reels, rely on ourselves to propel us forward. This quote I love from RBG. It was, ask yourself, how do I add value to my organization and society? Do I have a purpose that motivates me to be my best self? I love this quote because do we really know who we are from a value perspective? I think that is so important for us to examine wherever we are in our journey, because at times we don't know where we add value, right? If you can relate to that, please give me a high five or something in the chat box or share a story, because at times it's really hard to know where we add value. So here's a challenge for you. And this is the way I love to engage with my community about finding value. I want you to find that friend, that anchor in your life, maybe that colleague, that special person. And I want you to ask them this question. Why did you choose me as your friend? Of all of the millions of people out there, why did you choose me? And I know it sounds crazy and it sounds awkward, and it is awkward. I asked my friend of 15, 20 years, I asked her that question, and she said to me, Amy, why are you asking me this? Like, seriously, of course you know why I'm choosing you as a friend. But right there, dig a little deeper. Because when you really ask those courageous, challenging questions to those people that know you the most, and you absorb what they tell you, it's amazing how you can build your confidence. So I challenge you to do that. The last thing I'm going to talk about is self-affirmations, because I think this is a very big way, an important way of building our confidence as we go along in our journey. I say this often, treat yourself as the guest of honor. Isn't that true? I mean, think about welcoming people into your house. You know, we're not doing that as much these days, of course, in the pandemic, but when you do welcome people in, you welcome them with kindness and with love and not judging, with openness. Why can't we treat ourselves that same way? Think about that for a minute. I sat in a conference a couple of years ago, and the speaker said these words: you can't talk defeat and expect victory. I think there is so much power in that. I have it. I looked up because I have it in my office here. How often do we say to ourselves, oh, a diet? I'm not doing another diet. It never works for me. I just gain weight. Or how about this one? My company's going through layoffs. Yep, it's going to be me. I just know it. Or how about this? It's flu season. I got the flu shot. I'm going to get it. I get it every year. We can't talk defeat and expect victory. The power of self-affirmations. I put this up here because I love this. I am the greatest. Muhammad Ali said that before he even knew he was. And he had to believe it or no one else would. Relatable? We have to believe in ourselves. I want to challenge you to come up with self-affirmations. And you may have heard this other points in your lives from other speakers and other people that you've, come upon on your journey. But I want you to take the time to really do this, no matter where you are, whether you're an entrepreneur, you are a stay-at-home mom, you are a network marketer right now, ready to launch, whatever it is for you. I want you to create your self-affirmations. I challenged my daughter, she's 23, to do this. And she said to me recently, she said, you know what, Mom? I reflected on those recently, and it really got me through a tough day. I am confident. I am smart. I'm beautiful. I am strong. I am healthy. Whatever those affirmations are for you, jot them down. Put them in your nightstand, put them in your handbag, put them on your mirror, and reflect on those in your quiet moments. We tend to forget to do that. You know what? Create your highlight reel. Look back at your stories. Become your own historian. Look at that word history, historian. Story is right there. You're the keeper of your stories. You're the only one that knows those stories. Share those stories. Create your highlight reel. Do not resign. Wherever you are in your journey, even on these days of pandemics that have gone from acute to chronic right now, and you may look out and feel like there is this fog and you can't quite see what's next, do these 3 things. Self-reflect. Rely on yourself through self-reliance. Create your self-affirmations. Remember, you're the historian of your life. You're the keeper of those stories. And in closing today, I just want you to close your eyes for a minute, and I just want to go back to that first opening story that I had today. And I want you to picture yourself on another hot summer day. And there you are, sporting your tankini, your one piece, your bikini, whatever it is. And you go over to that high dive at the pool, or you go to that cliff at the lake, or you go to that rock wall or that swing, wherever it is. And I want you to get to the top. And then I want you to run off and jump and wrap your arms around your legs, actually kind of giving yourself a hug. Uncomfortable? Heck yeah, totally. Pretty? No, but you got to start ugly, right? You got to start ugly. And make that impressive splash, that cannonball with confidence. And when you come up, it doesn't matter who's watching. I just want you to take a deep breath and say, look at me now. Look at me now. So thank you for that. I love to share stories about confidence, and I love to challenge women to step outside their comfort zone, whatever that may be. If you're thinking about starting a business, if you're thinking about taking on a new adventure, if you're thinking about that couch to 5K that you really want to do in May, just start. You know what? There's so much power in that. My last slide here, before I open it up just for a couple of questions. I hope I haven't gone over, Samantha. There's ways you can work with me. I think Samantha may have put in the chat boxes a link to my podcast. If you haven't listened to it, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's really about sharing encouraging and inspiring stories of people that are taking on challenges and forging ahead. Yesterday's podcast that dropped was with Jenny Brzezinski, Mika Brzezinski's sister-in-law. Mika's going to be on from Know Your Value, coming on in the next few weeks as well. And Jenny talks about, it's a really great topic for anybody at HAYVN, because it's about comeback careers, and it's about talking about putting that fear aside. So it's a great one, and it just dropped yesterday. Tomorrow's episode is coming out on finances. So that's another great one. I'm on Instagram, amy.k.schmidt. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, I do a little bit. LinkedIn, I'm trying to get better at. Work in progress. And I also am the author of a book named Cannonball, which I'm going to give away a signed copy. If you haven't ordered this yet, you can order it on Amazon, or you can email me and I will send you a signed copy. So and I just want to show everybody I've done this before, I think, for HAYVN, but this is me standing on a cliff, ready to jump off at 50. So I want to thank you for letting me share my story and my journey, and I hope that everybody enjoyed it.